Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 56th Chicago International Film Festival. My name is Sam Flancher. I'm the short film programmer here, and we're very excited to present the Q&A for Shorts 5. We've got a number of the filmmakers here with us today. So I'm going to start by having everyone who's here introduce themselves and say where they're calling in from, and maybe just a few introductory words about which film in the program was yours. So why don't we start with Bella? Could you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, hello. I am Thelyia Petraki. I'm from Athens, Greece, and I'm here in Chicago International Film Festival with my short film Bella.
And how about listening in? Let's hear from you.
Hi, so my name is Omer Sterenberg, and I've directed and written Listening In. I'm from Jerusalem. I'm a student at the Sam Spiegel Film School in Jerusalem. That's it.
And Buzzkill, why don't we hear from you?
Hi, I'm Kathy Esquenazi Mitrani. I am the director and writer of Buzzkill. I'm calling in from South Florida, normally based in New York.
And finally, Spotted Yellow. Let's hear from you.
Good. Salam.
Hi, everyone.
من باران سرمدم.
This is Baran Sarmad
از ایران.
from Iran.
زرخاله اولین فیلممه.
Spotted Yellow is my first movie.
و خیلی خوشحالم که توی دومین حضور بهمونه
I'm very happy to be in the second show of the movie in the Chicago Festival.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here, and thank you for sharing your work with the festival and our audiences. We're so excited to have them all. It's such a strong program this year, so we're thrilled for people to be seeing these films. I just want to start by asking a kind of general question about the beginnings of the project. And anyone can take this question, but I'm curious about the genesis, sort of this original seed of the idea and the early stages of the project. So Thelyia, why don't we start with you?
Sure. A couple of years ago, I happened to read some letters that a woman was sending to her husband while he was away in Moscow on a trip during the 80s. So I read these letters. There were like 40 letters, really long letters. And in an afternoon, I couldn't stop reading them because I got so touched by them. And they made me feel so emotional. And instantly I had all these images coming in my head, and that they made me wanted to, share this experience with, everybody. So yeah, that's how I decided to make this film.
And the images that were in your head from these letters, were they like things that were referenced or included in the letters, or was it more like ephemeral, like they kind of just things sort of bubbled up creatively for you?
I think both. The images that they were being presented in the letters, they were being translated in my head in another kind of form, and I felt so overwhelmed with them. Yeah, so I wanted them to, to materialize them somehow. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Omer, why don't you tell us about the kernel of the idea for Listening In?
Well, it all started when I came across a letter written by a few Israeli soldiers who refused to keep doing they were intelligence soldiers and they refused to keep doing their service. And they talked about the way the Israeli army uses private information, and specifically information about the LGBT community, in order to use it against or to So I came across this letter and it was really intriguing for me, and I talked about it with a gay Palestinian friend of mine, and he knew it. He said it it's a known thing in the gay Palestinian community that this information that you always been listened to. This conflict really intrigued me because I felt like I'm on both sides of the fence at the same time, as I'm an Israeli because I was born here, and I'm gay because I was born gay, and I felt like I have to choose. So was the beginning of this idea of the film.
Thank you. Kathy, why don't you tell us a bit about the Buzzkill beginning?
Sure. Well, when I was thinking about making another film, it was winter in New York, and I was feeling really nostalgic about summer times in South Florida. But more specifically, I was thinking about a time in my life where I was running away from my innocence out of fear of it, trying to fit into something else or something ahead of me. And I think in the process of understanding who I am, I understood how much of myself I had lost in my teenage life. And yeah, thinking about all those things is what made me want to write this story.
It's interesting that you were away from Florida and kind of dreaming of the place, because it comes across so particularly in the film. So interesting to learn. And how about you, Baran? Can you talk about the beginnings of Spotted Yellow?
Okay, please.
خب من از بچگی خیلی در واقع آدم خیال پردازی بودم.
Actually, I was very imaginative since my childhood.
و همیشه تصورات عجیب و غریبی داشتم.
And I had very special, unusual imagination about everything.
ولی خب توی پروسه بزرگ شدن همیشه ممکنه فاصله بگیری از این خلاقیتی.
But you know, during growing up and adolescence, perhaps you get a bit distant from this great imagination of yours.
اما یه شب توی همین سال گذشته من توی مهمونی خانوادگی بودم.
Last year, actually, I was in a family party one night.
و همه داشتن در مورد مسائل دنیای مدرن حرف می‌زدن.
And everybody was talking about a modern life and the issues.
و من خیلی اونجا احساس تنهایی و بیگانگی می‌کردم.
And I felt so alone being there. You know, they talked about economics or politics and everything.
بعد اون مهمونی جلوی در همه این گفتگوها ادامه داشت.
And all they continued till the doorway, you know, out in the street.
اونجا یه کوچه خیلی بلند تاریک بود.
And out of that apartment, there was a very long, narrow alley, quite dark.
من از همه جدا شدم، یه گوشه وایسادم و به انتهای کوچه نگاه کردم.
And I left everyone, and I was watching the end of that alley alone.
و یه زرافه خیلی بزرگ از انتهای کوچه شروع کرد اومدن.
And suddenly I saw a big giraffe moving toward me.
به من نگاه کرد و رفت و برگا آروم تکون خورد.
Looking at me, and it left, and the leaves started moving very slowly and gently.
اونجا احساس کردم که نباید این تصورات دوباره فراموش کنم.
That night I realized I shouldn't forget about those imaginations anymore.
باید در موردش فیلم بسازم.
I have to make a movie about that.
Yeah, and I think the image of the giraffe and the leaves obviously physically make it into the film, but even the way you've described the beginning, the tone is almost similar, the tone of your story and the tone of the film. So I'd like to move to like a general question about the form of everyone's film, because they're all so different, obviously. Radically, like Bella obviously is this like cinematic universe docu-fiction sort of project. Listening in, we've got this other world suggested, though most of it takes place physically in one location. Buzzkill, we talked about this, the setting of South Florida and the kind of like the quality that the like I think looks like 16mm film sort of communicates this like internal world, and then obviously the patience and sort of imagination of Spotted Yellow. So we'll start with Thelyia. Bella, can you talk about the film finding its form from these letters into this piece?
So all these images that were, you know, coming to my head, they were like memories. They were like faded memories. And this is exactly what I wanted to sort of imitate. And and this is why I chose to, you know, construct a collage from different materials that would resemble, I don't know, home videos to, you know, Super 8 film and 16mm film and, you know, archival footage, everything together in order to show exactly how I felt while I was reading all these letters. It was like, it was, yeah, it was sort of like a storm, and I wanted that to, yeah, to bring it to the film.
And I'm wondering how much of the film, like obviously there's this archival, like how many different kinds of cameras did you use? Like what of the film was taken from like already sourced material, and what did you create? Is there like a ratio in your head that you have?
Well, definitely the news footage and some photography and yeah, some archival footage where I found them and I made a research for them and I found them. And then I construct everything else with the actors. I recreated the home videos and I recreated the moments that the hero is alone and her personal moments with, and I used VHS. I used 16mm and I used Super 8 as well.
And those home videos come off so naturally. Did you, what kind of prep did you have to do to like mimic that aesthetic of home video, or was it just kind of this natural instinctual thing?
Well, yeah, no, it was the direction that I gave to my crew. I said to them, we need to construct a universe that it's going to seem like we found everything. So from the set decoration to the clothes, to the acting, to the voices, to the expressions, everything had to imitate something that happened during the 80s and to forget about the present. And it was intense, but I think we worked together towards this direction. Everybody understood this vision, and yeah, the result is better.
Yeah, the aesthetic is perfect. I'm thinking specifically of the scene where the boy sets up the camera at the dinner table and they're eating noodles. For some reason, that comes across as this like extremely natural moment. So congrats on the, on the success. Omer, let's talk about listening in and how the film kind of found its form. You have this lead actor with this incredibly subtle but expressive face, and the audio kind of suggests the world outside. Can you talk about like finding that sort of tension?
Yeah. So obviously our visual form was kind of story driven because we had to film a person who sits and listens, and that was kind of difficult because me and the DOP Shiri Kuban, we talked a lot about how to create the drama and the conflict, and just by seeing a face. And I think the casting really did the job, because Eitan was an amazing actor who really understood the story and really understood the things he's supposed to feel. And we just used his face. We just he was very, as you say, subtle and gentle. And I think this is what gave the visual force of the film. Yeah, I think the editing kind of gave us really freedom, because what you listened on set wasn't the things that eventually got into the film. So we kind of used his face and his emotions to create a new story after the film was already filmed. So this was kind of interesting process.
Yeah, that's kind of amazing. So I guess how different was the story that he was listening to while performing from the final version that ended in the film?
Not very different. There was some plot changes and some things that didn't work while editing that we had to lose, like he's trying to connect the people he listens to and things like that we felt was too dramatic for the story, for the film. And I think we mostly, if the script was more melodic, perhaps, I don't know, maybe like more poetic, and I think the version of the film that eventually we created was more everyday-ish. Like people who talk, and they talk about their lives, and they talk about their desires and everyday things, and I think it's more, it gives more force. I don't know, like yeah.
Yeah, I think it works so well. This and it's interesting to hear you. It's almost like early montage, right, of like someone's face, and then you suggest it, and all this. It becomes pregnant with all this kind of emotion. So it's interesting to learn. Kathy, let's move to Buzzkill. Can you talk about the film finding its form with these like close-ups and the handheld camera work and this kind of sense of youth and this lush, as we talked about before, sense of place?
Sure. Well, Florida, I have this romanticized idea of it, of its nature, of the heat, all of that. And I wanted to make sure that the colors were very texturized in the film. As I was writing it, there's a lot of Florida reference and I don't know, just trees in the background. But in terms of the camera work, I wanted a very immersive teenage experience. When, I don't know, at least when I was a teenager, all my feelings were amplified and everything was so intense. And I wanted the camera to embody that. And when I was looking for a DP, we found Logan, and he wrote me a really long email why this needed to be shot on 16mm. And I was like, yeah, it does. And I am so happy that you opened that door for me. And yeah, I think it brought everything kind of together.
It gives it a really beautiful texture, I think, throughout, and the nostalgia comes across in not like in like a critical way, I think. So it works very well. And let's moving to Baran for Spotted Yellow. How did you come to this like sort of patient, meditative form? I mean, there are obviously these explosive moments, especially the opening shot of the woman sort of making her giraffe noise. But can you talk about finding like the rhythm of the film?
بعد از نوشتن در واقع فیلمنامه که خیلی پروسه خلاقانه‌ای بود که با دوستم محمد رضا مهرانی صورت گرفت.
Well, after a long process of writing the screenplay, which was written both with a friend of mine, Mohamed Reza Mehbani,
ما در واقع با پیدا کردن لوکیشن ها و عکاسی که توی اون لوکیشن ها داشتیم و پیدا کردن فرمای جدیدی که
by finding the location and photographing those locations
و پیدا کردن ارتباط روایتمون با اون لوکیشن ها و فضای واقعی
and finding the correlation between those locations and the narration of the story that we want to talk about,
تونستیم کم کم یک فرم مشخصی رو برای فیلم پیدا کنیم.
we could reach a specific form for the movie.
من خیلی دوست داشتم که تمام چیزی که در درون این کاراکتر میگذره
I really wanted that everything which is happening inside the character of the movie
در واقع نه فقط از طریق داستانم بلکه از طریق تمام خطوط و رنگ‌ها و فضایی که توی فیلم هم وجود داره انتقال پیدا کنه.
To convey the message and show it not only by the character of the story but also through all the lines and colors and everything in each sequence.
و سعی کردم همه چی و همه لباسا، همه در واقع اکسسوار صحنه، همه چی رو طراحی کنم.
And I decided to design each and every costume and accessories of every part of and every sequence of the movie.
البته یه ایده هم داشتم که اون در واقع فرم اوریگامی بود برام.
And of course I had one idea of the origami in the very beginning.
که فرم اوریگامی رو هم میتونیم توی معماری لوکیشن های فیلم ببینیم.
And you can see this origami in the form of the architecture of all the locations.
توی طراحی لباس ها حتی چیزایی که دیده نمیشه مثل دوختای ریز لباس.
And also in the costume of the character, also in the very tiny, like the stitches and the sewing on the clothes of the character.
و احساس میکنم که همه این جزئیات کم کم بهم کمک کرد که بتونم به اون فضای متفاوتی که میخوام برسم.
And I feel that all these tiny details helped me reach that ideal picture which was in my mind.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned the architecture because it does work so well, especially with the angular giraffe costume. I want to ask about that costume because it's so distinct. Can you talk about designing that? Is that like a kind of costume that you've seen everywhere? It was completely new to me, the tall head. I almost, when I first saw it, I didn't realize that there was a giraffe even on top of the head, and then my eyes go up to it and it's this dancing giraffe. Can you just talk a little bit about the costume?
راجع به لباسش رو میگه چون اول اصلا نفهمیدم که بالش سر جرف هست. اینو چجوری بهش رسیدی؟
من با توجه به همون فرم اوریگامی که گفتم
According to that origami that I was talking about,
دنبال این بودم که لباس زرافه هم با همین ایده طراحی بشه.
I was looking to design the costume of that giraffe in the same form.
و یک طراح لباسی در واقع پیدا کردم که معماره.
And I found a costume designer who is an architect as well.
اسمش سارا امیریه و
whose name is Sarah Amiri.
و توی یک پروسه خیلی خلاقه و با استفاده از در واقع همون خطوط اوریگامی تونستیم کم کم به طراحی این لباس زرافه برسیم.
And gradually together we could reach through a very creative process we could reach the ultimate design of that costume.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I want to open up if anyone has any questions for the other filmmakers in the program. Now is a great time to ask them. If you don't have any questions, that's okay. But yeah, if anyone, any thoughts or questions here?
Omer, I had a question for you. Because like you mentioned before, most of the film is based off this character listening to a story that is happening that we're not seeing, but the subtlety in his expressions are so precise and so inviting, and I'm feeling with him every step of the way. I'm wondering what your process was like in rehearsals or how you got the performance.
So I'm not a big fan of rehearsals as it comes to films because I feel it kind of loses. I mean, we did rehearsal. We did like we sat and we read the script, and I kind of tried to make him think what he would do in this situation, and like make him as a person more intrigued to the story or more into the story. We did most of the rehearsals on set, and I did talk to him during the takes because we didn't record sound on set. It was much easier to give him like these small instructions, and I guess my luck was he was really good at making them and to understand them and like making them happen. He was really concentrated and really knew how to process while still in the character and still very concentrated at something that he listens to and still hears me and know how to react to the things I say. So I guess this was his magic. This was why I had so much fun working with him.
Yeah, congratulations. It's amazing.
And I think it's actually something all the films in that have directors here today share, is this kind of ability, the actors and performances ability to express without using words. Does anyone else want to talk about sort of working with your actor to express? Kathy, do you have anything to add there about coaching up your actor or working with her?
She's my cousin, so she had a level of comfort with me that was nice. And I think the energy of the other kids were bouncing off each other. And since none of them had been in front of a camera before, it was like this new thing where they could just play with their imagination or themselves and bring a lot of natural behavior, which I think made it easier for me.
And Thelyia, could you talk a little bit about the performances in Bella? That they are so emotive, but there are very few words spoken, actually.
Yeah, it was based on many improvisations, and we didn't have the time to do much of the rehearsals, many rehearsals, but during the shooting, I gave them some very open directions of what they can do, what is the situation, and therefore they would act accordingly without having a script, lines to read or to learn. So they felt very, I think I was very lucky to have them all, because they were all so natural and they were all so easy to cooperate with. And yeah, it was much of our improvisational work, which was very, very liberating for me. I loved it.
I'm wondering, did they have a sense of what was in the letters? It's almost shares this with listening in, this kind of like voiceover. Did they know?
Only Elena Topalidou knew a bit what was going on in the letters, not too much, because I wanted to give them never seen, to concentrate to the scene and not to the whole story, so that it can be more natural and more effortless, I guess.
It feels that way. I mean, with such like a big project full of these kind of big sweeping historical ideas, that it makes sense to me to sort of limit those performances to the here and now. How about Spotted Yellow? Can you talk about the performance? I'm wondering, was there any kind of study of giraffe behavior? Was there any did you work with your actor to observe giraffes and kind of mimic that behavior, or did it come kind of more naturally in concert with the form of the film?
After having this idea very simultaneously,
خب مسلما خیلی در مورد زرافه ها خوندم، کلی ازشون فیلم دیدم، چون نمیدونم میدونی یا نه ولی توی ایران تا قبل فیلم من اصلا هیچ زرافه‌ای وجود نداشت و من و اصلا کلا آدمی که توی ایران تا الان زرافه ندیده بودم.
Actually, before, definitely, I have studied a lot through them. I've watched a lot of movies about them, and I've studied them very carefully. And I don't know whether you know it or not. In Iran, I myself have never seen a giraffe, or many people have never seen a giraffe, actually.
خب این باعث میشد که هم خیلی بتونم ایده بگیرم برای روایت فیلم.
It could help me through getting a lot of ideas for my story.
مثلا یکی از ایده هام این بود که خب زرافه ها اصلا خیلی عقیده دارن که هیچ صدایی از خودشون در نمیارن.
Actually, one of the ideas was that a lot of people believe that giraffes do not have any voice, and they don't have any voice or noise. They do not produce or create anything, and they think that they are, they're dumb.
ولی یه سری صداها هم رپ شده از زرافه‌ها که وقتی خیلی خیلی تنهان یه سری جیغای عجیب غریب می‌کشن.
But there are some voices recorded actually that they think that when the giraffes are alone, they produce a kind of noise like a scream.
خب این هم توی شروع فیلمم به من کمک کرد، هم این دورافتادگی که کاراکترم در طول روایت فیلم داره.
And this helped me in the very beginning of the movie. I use that as well, and also
و تنهایی که کاراکتر داره
and
و
also the
ارتباط با هم.
loneliness of the character of the movie, and the lack of relation or connection it can through or with the world around itself.
کسی حرف نمیزنه.
It doesn't talk, and it's always quiet. So that was a mutual thing between the character, I mean the idea of the character personality and the giraffe, which sparks in my mind.
Great, thank you. Perhaps another year, if you have another film, you can join us in Chicago. We have a couple of giraffes at the zoo. We can take a festival trip to see them.
Okay, hopefully.
I'll end just by asking everyone what they're working on next. I feel like the short filmmaker's life is one that moves from project to project. So if there's something in the works, if you could share what, Thelyia, why don't you start?
Yeah, I'm working on my first feature. I finished the script. I have, and right now I'm trying to fund it so that I can shoot it perhaps next year if everything is okay with COVID and I don't know what else is going to happen to this world. Yeah.
Is it similar at all to Bella in style or tone or anything, or totally different?
It is based on a true story again. It is based on the book of a guy that he wrote based on a very personal incident that he had. So yeah, in that sense, it's similar. The approach, the cinematic approach, is not going to be exactly like Bella, but it's going to have some, you know, some elements of it, like the improvisation and the spontaneity that you can see in this short. It's going to definitely be in the feature as well.
Great. Maybe you can squeeze some footage of Gorbachev in there too.
Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe Trump, because
Exactly. Yeah. Omer, how about you? What's next for you?
Well, I'm actually during my studies, so I just filmed my final project 2 days before the lockdown. We have a lockdown now, so it was right on point, and now I'm editing it. It deals with the same. It deals with the connection between like the private life and the political life. In this sense, it is similar to Listening In. But it's more like a friendship themed, and it deals with the conflict of like losing your childhood and to the political atmosphere and to the yeah we you know Israel is a very conflicted place, so it's kind of part of your adolescence to become a part of this conflict. So this is what this film is about.
Great. Looking forward to that one. Kathy, how about you? What's next for you?
I've been writing my first feature set in South Florida as well. And my thesis project, because I'm also still in school, also set in South Florida, very different, but I think all my films are love letters to Florida.
Yeah, I think that's like a trait that Floridian filmmakers share. I feel like it has this kind of strange tradition of being this like magnetic place. I feel like the filmmakers who film there return over and over again. And Baran, how about you? What's next for you?
Actually, I have a short screenplay for a short movie.
و که فکر می‌کنم توی سال آینده توی همین سال بسازمش.
Which I think that I'm gonna make it by this time next year.
و همینطور دارم روی یک فیلمنامه بلند کار میکنم.
And also I'm working on one screenplay of a feature movie.
که در واقع این دو تا فیلم هم همینطوری هستن که ارتباط انسان با طبیعت توی فیلم ها مورد توجه.
Which is specifically about, again, the relationship between human and nature. بیشتر توضیح بدم.
در واقع ما یک استودیوی کوچیک فیلمسازی خیلی مستقل توی ایران داریم.
Actually, we have a very small independent studio of filmmaking here in Iran.
که قبل فیلم من فیلم‌های دیگه‌ای تولید کردیم و الان توی همین روزا مشغول پیش تولید یه فیلم کوتاه هستیم.
And actually, before we have worked in this studio as well on different other movies, and right now we are working on the pre-production of other movie. And that's it.
Great. Well, I hope you send the Chicago Film Festival all these new projects when they're finished. We're excited to stay in touch with you. And that will do it for today's Q&A. I want to thank everyone for joining us here, for sharing your work and for sharing some thoughts about your work. We're thrilled to have the films on the program and hope that you have a good virtual festival if you're able to attend any of the screenings. So thanks for being here.